Hey, what's happening, people? How y'all doing? Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Have a seat. Come spend a little time with me this evening. You know, you guys, I look forward to this every Sunday. So I thank you for joining me and checking me out and listening. Hopefully, learning a little bit. Make sure you like, love, and share the message. Even if you checked in late, make sure you like, love, and share the message for me. Okay? Because guess what? I don't do this for the likes. I do this for the love. And I love y'all. I look forward to being here every Sunday. And let's see, I'm going back and we got, yep, okay. So I am live. Wonderful. So again, welcome to Messages in the Madness. Make sure you put your comments in there for me. Let's talk about it tonight because tonight's going to be a pretty good show. Well, I say that every week. So I hope you had a great and wonderful week because I got to admit I did. Yes, I did. Did a little traveling and back home. And actually, I got to stay close to home this week. So that was really pretty cool. Hey, brother Jerry, good to see you, my friend. Um, but, hey, I'm here. And yes, I got the flowers up because the flowers are up in my yard. I'm just waiting for some more of them to bloom so I can put those out there. They are absolutely beautiful this year. There's too many of them, actually. I'm about to cut some back. I'm about to dig up some so I can share them with other people. Hey, Mr. Ned, how you doing? Yeah, glad to see you. Baby sis, happy to see you as well. Everybody hear me okay? Make sure you give me a thumbs up or put 100%, put 100 in the chat. Let me know that you hear me okay. I'd greatly appreciate that. Make sure you hit like, love, share the message. And as I say that, I'm looking for those hundreds to pop up to make sure that I am coming across loud and clear. Do. Come on, y'all. If you hear me, put 100 or, put 100 in the chat for me. Because with this system that I use, I am not able to see those I'm not able to see those thumbs up. All right, thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. So tonight's message is called "Life Had Other Plans." Thank you, Mr. Net. Yeah, share that. Life had other plans. Hey, Dustin, good to see you, buddy. Um, because see, you'll understand where the title came from as I get into the show tonight. So make sure y'all um, chat with me. Put stuff in the chat as we go through the message. I'm gonna say this now so that I don't forget. But there will be no show next week. Next Sunday there will not be a show. So I'm letting you know. I may go a little long this week because there will be no show next week. So again, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Messages in the Madness with yours truly, Vernon Longhorn Davis. Last night, Miss Nanette and I attended the graduation of one of our grandchildren. You guys know Makai graduated 2 weeks ago. Miss Kayla graduated this week. So congratulations to our young princess. She graduated. And as often as we were there, and what often happens with me is I leave a graduation or I leave somewhere with a message that has very little to do with the ceremony itself and everything to do with life. That's what I picked up from it. We arrived early because when you have large family gatherings that are on time usually means being on time is 30 minutes before everyone else arrives. So as we walked in the building, I immediately noticed the energy in the room. The energy was amazing. The place was absolutely alive. Cameras were flashing from every direction, and parents were looking for the best seats, and grandparents were smiling before the ceremony even started. Guilty. Brothers and sisters were pointing across the room trying to find their brother or sister, their graduate, while aunties and uncles they were waving excitedly, you know, trying to get the kids' attention. That was just in our party alone, okay? Okay, Dustin's making dinner. All right, he says some pork and noodles. Sounds good, man. So we had 15 people. We had 15 people there for Kayla's graduation. We gathered together to celebrate this one single great accomplishment. And as I sat there taking it all in, I found myself watching the people in the crowd just as much as I was watching the graduates on stage. Hey, August, good to see you. One of the things I enjoy the most about events like this is observing the pure, unfiltered human emotion. because it's alive and on display. There were parents who looked proud enough to burst. There were grandparents taking pictures from angles that made absolutely no sense because they weren't worried about getting the perfect shot. They were simply trying to capture a fleeting moment. There were family members standing and waving every single time they thought their graduate looked in their direction. Hey, baby, I see you. You see me? And of course, every family was completely convinced their graduate was waving directly at them, and they was actually waving at their friends behind you. It was beautiful. It was loud, joyful, and most of all, it was hopeful. Even though it didn't start until 8:30. Yeah, that was the last graduation of the night. They had it in a big hall. Well, not a hall. It was an arena because they had like 400 plus kids graduating. As I watched everything unfold, a thought crossed my mind. Graduation is one of the few events in life where everybody seems genuinely hopeful at the exact same time. And I thought that was beautiful. Nobody shows up expecting bad news. Nobody arrives prepared for disappointment, and nobody buys flowers because they think something terrible is about to happen. Everybody comes believing in pure possibility. And for a few hours, the entire room is focused on what could be instead of what might go wrong. And in today's world, that is actually a very refreshing thing to experience. So I thought that was great. Then the student speakers began to speak. I listened carefully to what those young people had to say because, as they say, from the mouth of babes, you'll be surprised what you can learn if you really listen. Their words were thoughtful and sincere. You could tell they talked about dreams and opportunities, friendship, challenges, and the future. Hmm. You could tell they spent some time on it. They spent hours writing this stuff because they truly wanted to leave their classmates with something meaningful. More than anything, what stood out to me was their not just their pride, but their profound confidence. They spoke with conviction, certainty, and the kind of unblemished optimism that only young people seem capable of having. Because see, some of us have gotten a little older and tarnished, and we've been through some things, and our optimism is not as high as some of these young folks. Hmm. They fully believe the future was waiting for them. And honestly, I admired that. I truly admired it. I was incredibly proud of them, proud of their accomplishments, and proud of the fact that they were standing on that stage prepared to step into adulthood. But as I listened, I found myself smiling. Yeah, I was smiling. I smiled not because they were wrong or naive or because I disagreed. I didn't disagree with anything they said. I smiled because there was no way they could possibly know what was actually ahead of them. Then I realized something deeper. Neither did we. All of us watching this show, or all of those that will watch this show, we didn't know what was ahead of us. We didn't. Every parent, grandparent, teacher, coach, family member sitting in that room had once been exactly where those graduates were standing. At one point, all of us stood on the edge of adulthood believing we had a clear idea of what our future would look like. We had all the answers. We had plans and goals and expectations. We had dreams about where we would live, what career we would choose, who we would marry, and what our families would become. We had that. Most of us were absolutely convinced we knew exactly where we were headed. But if we are being honest with ourselves, most of us eventually discovered the exact same thing. Life had other plans. Yeah, life had other plans. So, as I sat there listening to those graduates talk about their future, I found myself reflecting heavily on my own senior year of high school. Yes, tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about me. I know some people say, you talk too much about you. Well, guess what? I'm talking about me tonight. The truth is, I wish I could remember exactly what I thought my senior year was supposed to be. I don't. I wish I could tell you about all the grand dreams I had and all the plans I made, but honestly, I don't remember much of that at all. Only thing I can remember is that I knew I wanted to join the military. I wanted to be a colonel, and I wanted to be a psychologist, a psychiatrist. That was my sophomore and junior year. That's what I thought. What I remember isn't the dream. What I remember is the struggle. Yeah. I remember being semi homeless during part of that time. I was dependent on friends and people I considered family just to help me get through. I remember trying to make it from one single day to the next. While many students were worried about football games and dances and proms and all the traditional experiences that come with being a senior, my priorities were very different. I wasn't worried about what I was wearing to graduation or what my senior trip might look like. I was worried about tomorrow, about stability, and about finding a way forward. That's what I was worried about. I'm going to put a pin in it real quick. Jerry says, I was on a flight with some young people and we were talking and they asked me a bold question. What would you tell yourself if you could go back and have a conversation with yourself? I told them that I would tell myself to never let the voices of the haters control your dreams and where you want to go. Jerry, that is very profound, my friend. I think that is very honest and very bold. And I thank you for sharing that with them young people. So, the one thing I remember clearly is that I needed to graduate. That was the mission and that was the sole objective. It wasn't because I was trying to win awards or impress anyone. I needed that diploma because I wanted to join the U.S. Army. The Army represented something much bigger than military service at that point in my life. It represented stability, opportunity, direction, and an actual future. Matter of fact, my goals at that point in my life was pretty simple. I needed 3 hots in a cot, and I didn't want it to be in prison. I may be being silly, but I'm being real. What's that say? LVBS, laughing but very serious. Yeah, LBVS. Yeah, something like that. People sometimes laugh when I say that, but I'm completely serious, entirely serious. That was my reality at the time. When life is difficult, your priorities become entirely different. Success doesn't always mean becoming wealthy or achieving some grand historical dream. Sometimes success simply means having a safe place to sleep, food to eat, and finding a path forward when you are not entirely sure where the road leads. And that was me. At that stage of my life, the Army represented all those things for me. It represented a real chance. I started my senior year at the regular high school, but eventually I transferred to an alternative school. It wasn't part of some master plan or the experience I imagined for myself. It was simply what needed to happen in order to reach the goal. My focus wasn't on creating memories. My focus was on finishing. I wanted to earn that diploma and create an opportunity for myself. And eventually I did. I graduated in December. I learned in my junior year that I could finish early because I had enough credits and my grades were decent. I was actually a pretty good student, but I graduated that December. So I tell people I am a proud member of the class of 84 and a half. I remember being proud of that accomplishment and feeling a massive sense of relief. But I also remember wondering what I was missing out on. I wondered what my friends were doing and what memories they were making or they were creating while my life was already moving in a completely different direction. Everything seemed to change so quickly. It did. One minute I was a student trying to navigate high school. The next minute I was preparing to leave for the military. While I was writing this, and I was looking back, I realized something I couldn't see then. What felt like uncertainty was actually preparation. What felt like instability was building resilience. And what felt like survival was teaching me perseverance. Hmm. If you understood what I said, put 100 in the chat. At the time, I didn't understand any of that. I didn't. I was simply trying to move forward. And sometimes that is all any of us can do. We don't always get to see the entire road ahead because life often only gives us enough light for the very next step. Yeah. I'm going to say that again. We don't always get to see the entire road ahead of us because life often gives us enough light for the next step. The older I get, the more I realize that many of life's lessons only make sense in reverse. Looking back, I can connect dots that seem completely unrelated at the time. I can see how difficult seasons prepared me for future opportunities. Hmm. How disappointments redirected me towards better outcomes. And how moments that felt unfair eventually became vital parts of my personal growth. But when you're living through those moments, none of that is obvious. All you know is that life isn't following the script you imagine. This is not what I imagined my life to be. That realization brings me to the next chapter of the story. Because the young man who simply wanted a diploma and a chance would soon find himself standing in basic training, hearing a drill sergeant repeat a phrase that he would remember for the rest of his life. And I do. I can hear these words as if they were just spoken to me now. Hey, Mr. Ned, good to see you. When I left for basic training, I didn't know exactly what to expect. I had seen the movies and listened to veterans talk about the experience. I went through 4 years of JROTC. But the reality is that nobody can fully prepare you for an experience that they have never lived. There was some lessons in this world that cannot be taught. They just can't be taught. They have to be experienced. These lessons, yeah, that's the best way I could put it. They have to be experienced. I remember arriving and quickly discovering that basic training wasn't designed to make me comfortable or reassure me that everything was going to be okay. But I had a head start. See, like I said, I did 4 years of JROTC, and I'm a military brat. So I've been around bases I've been around military all my life. And I had friends that were in the military that was telling me what was going to happen. So I pretty much knew what was going to go on. But man, it's a completely different thing when you put them boots on and hit the floor. And you are in the army now. Yeah. I remember arriving and quickly discovering that basic training wasn't designed to make me comfortable or reassure me that everything was going to be okay. It was designed to transform me. Looking back now, that's one of the things we often misunderstand about personal growth. We want growth to feel good and progress to be comfortable. But most meaningful transformation doesn't happen when we are comfortable. It happens when we are deeply challenged. Every day in basic training seemed to come with a new challenge, another standard to meet, and opportunity to discover something about yourself that you didn't know before. Like I to this day do not like tear gas. That's a whole nother story. Sometimes you learned how strong you were, and other times you learned exactly where you were weak. And I learned that, and how much more discipline you needed. Throughout all of it, there was one phrase I heard repeatedly from our drill sergeant. He said it often. And that phrase stays with me. Yeah. Every recruit knew it by heart. He said out loud, "Hello, daughter. Glad you can make it." He said it out loud. He says, "I only sing cadence with soldiers." Now, for those of y'all that don't know what cadence is, when you see them on TV, they're marching, lip, right on lip. Yeah, that's cadence. Mama, mama, can't you see what the army's done to me? Yeah, that's cadence. But he said he only sings cadence with soldiers. Yeah, they did tear us down and build us back up. But he said, I don't sing cadence with recruits, not trainees, but soldiers. Hmm. Hey, Hugh, good to see you. I'm gonna say it right, Hugh, baby, good to see you. At first, it sounded like a simple statement, but over time, it became a positive, a powerful reminder that we hadn't arrived yet and that we were still earning the title of soldier. I didn't know if you've ever had a goal. I don't know. I don't know if you ever had a goal that seemed just far enough away to keep you motivated. That is what becoming a soldier felt like. And the interesting thing is that life keeps giving us versions of that exact experience. Sometimes we're trying to earn a promotion, build a business, become better parents. We may be even be trying to be better comedians. We're trying to improve our health or rebuild after a massive setback. And I have had to rebuild in my life 3 times. No, I take that back. It's been more than that, but that's another show. Whatever the goal may be, there is always a period where we haven't arrived yet, a period where we are learning, growing, and becoming. Most people don't enjoy that part because they want the reward without the process. Did you hear me? They want the reward without the process, the destination without the journey. Yeah. They want to go to Paris, but they don't want to catch the plane. They don't want to pack the bag. They don't want to show up at the airport. And the title without the effort. That's real. But life doesn't work that way. Growth requires a process. Transformation requires time, and becoming requires real effort. Mm. If you heard me on that one, put something in the chat for me. If you heard me on that, growth requires a process. Transformation requires time, and becoming requires real effort. I appreciate it, Hugh. Yeah, it has been a long time. Um, Annette says going through soldier stakes to graduate basic. Yeah. Um, Minor setbacks are for major comebacks. You're right. Absolutely right. Eventually, graduation day arrived. The ceremony itself was meaningful, but the moment that stayed with me actually happened afterwards. The official part was over. The families had celebrated. Yay, my baby. Pictures was taken. We wasn't doing this back then. We was, yeah. But the official part was over. The families were celebrating, pictures being taken, and we formed up for the final time to march back to the barracks. As we marched, the drill sergeant, who had spent weeks reminding us that he only sang cadence with soldiers, suddenly started calling cadence. Even after all these years, I could still hear his voice. And he sang, "Here we go again, same old shit again, marching down the avenue. Today's the day we are through." And in that moment, my heart filled with recognition. It was the recognition that I wasn't the same person who had arrived there. The transformation was real. I wasn't a recruit anymore. I was a soldier. Yeah, I was a soldier. The title had been earned, and the man who refused to sing cadence with recruits was singing cadence with us. I'm sorry. Even as I wrote this, y'all, I relived it. And as I just did what I did, I relived it. Looking back, that remains one of the greatest graduation gifts I have ever received. And not because somebody handed me a certificate, but because I realized I had become something I wasn't when I started. And isn't that what graduation really is? Ain't that what it's supposed to represent? It's not simply completion, it is transformation. The person who begins the journey should never be the exact person who finishes it. And as I sat there watching those graduates last night, I couldn't help but wonder who they will become over the next 20 years. I wasn't wondering about what careers they will have or what houses they'll buy, but truly who they will become. Because that is the part nobody can predict. Nobody. Some of these young folks will discover strengths they don't currently know they possess, survive challenges they can't currently imagine, and accomplish goals that seem impossible today. Some will completely change directions, move across the country, or build beautiful families, and none of them can see those chapters yet, just like we couldn't. As I sat there watching them, I suddenly realized something else. I wasn't looking at them through the eyes of a student or a recruit anymore. I was looking at them through the eyes of a grandfather, because I am a grandfather. And I never saw that coming. I never saw me as a grandfather. It wasn't in my plans. But when I became a grandfather, it changed my life. When I was 18 years old, becoming a grandfather wasn't even on my radar. Hell, truthfully, some days I was just trying to figure out where I was sleeping that night, let alone a grandfather. If you had told that young man that day, he would be sitting beside his wife in an auditorium surrounded by 15 family members watching his grandchild graduate, I would have looked at you like you had a horn coming out your forehead. Hmm. I wasn't thinking about grandchildren or writing books or speaking in front of audiences or telling jokes or hosting a show called Messages in the Madness. I was focused on the next step, the next day, and the next unresolved challenge. Hey, Buzz, good to see you, buddy. Buzz says open mic is basic training for comics. Some get through and are in charge of their own future. Fort Jackson is a whole different story. Thanks for that, Buzz. Y'all awful quiet tonight. Just let me know that y'all with me tonight. Put a heart or put a yes or put 100 into the chat. Let me know y'all with me tonight. I see a bunch of y'all watching, so let me know, okay? So somehow life kept moving. One chapter became another, and before I knew it, I was watching the new generation stand where I once stood. It reminded me how quickly life moves. It seemed like yesterday. It does. It seemed like yesterday we were worried about becoming adults ourselves. Then we were helping our children become adults. And then we're watching our grandchildren do the same. The years don't ask our permission before they pass. They just do. They simply introduce chapters we never planned for. The older I get, the more I realize that life isn't really about controlling every chapter. It's about learning something from them. Because none of us end up living exactly the way we planned our lives. We don't. Most of us end up living the life that happened. And sometimes that turns out to be even better than what we planned. Yeah. We did a show called The Person Life Prepared You to Be. If you haven't seen that one, go back and watch it. It's on YouTube. But that phrase, that sentence I just gave you there made me think about that. So now I want to make something very clear. I admire people who make plans. Put a pin in that. My children would say something to me when they was growing up, and then the first thing I would ask them is, "What's your plan? What is your plan?" And even in the world that I'm in now, working with the people I work with, I'm a coach, consultant, and trainer. But they'll tell me they want to do something, and I'll ask them, "Well, what is your plan? Do you want to formulate a plan? We can build a plan together. But do you, excuse me, do you have a plan?" But I admire people who make plans, set goals, work relentless to get there. Matter of fact, I consider myself one of those people. I got a vision board right there, right there, as part of my plan. The problem isn't the plan. There there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a plan. Let me say that first. The problem isn't the plan. The problem or the challenge is believing that life has agreed to follow it. Yeah, the problem isn't the plan. The problem is believing that life has agreed to follow it. There's an old saying that says, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Whether you agree with that statement or not, there is a tremendous amount of truth hidden inside it, because life has a very unique way of taking us places we never expected to go. Very few people arrive at 60 years old living the exact life they envisioned when they were 18. Yeah. August says, make a plan and listen to God laugh. That's right. Annette says, my plan to survive, ride more, stay ahead of cancer. I'm with you. Do that. Excuse me. Buzz says, you can't lead people you don't connect with, and you can't challenge people that don't trust you. Ooh. Wow. That's deep, Buzz. That's true. That is very true. Hey, Miss Coley, good to see you. Always glad to see you. Thank you, Miss Coley, for all the shares you do of our program and what we do. Thank you very much. And thank you, Miss Coley, for all the sharing of my latest book that you've done for me as well. Thank you. Um, think about how often this happens to people. Some people spend their entire childhood believing they will live in the same town forever. But a job opportunity comes along and they move halfway across the country. Some people never planned on becoming parents when they did. But a child enters their life and suddenly their priorities, schedules, and entire perspectives change instantly. They do. Others never planned on changing careers or having to completely start over at 40, 50, maybe even 60. Rebuilding finances, relationships, and dreams. If we're honest, most of us have experienced at least one season where we looked around and thought, this is not how I thought my life was going to go. If you've done that, just put a yes in the chat. You're right, Annette. You said Lord has a plan for all of us. Yes, he do. But he wants us to make some plans for ourselves also. But if you've experienced that one, have you ever looked around and said out loud, this is not how I thought my life was going to go? Just put a yeah, thank you. Put a yes or no into the chat. Whether it was a job loss, a divorce, financial setback, a diagnosis from the doctor, or the loss of someone you love. Almost everyone had a chapter they didn't expect to write. Thank y'all. Hey, what's up? What's up, T? Good to see you, man. Yeah, I see y'all chiming in. Thank y'all. The interesting thing is that those unexpected chapters often become the ones that teach us the most. There have certainly been moments in my own life when life had plans that I did not want. If someone had offered me the opportunity to skip those difficult chapters, I probably would have taken it. Most of us would take it. Hell, let's just be real. Most of us would have happily maybe took the chance to miss those difficult chapters. Some people say I wouldn't change a thing. Well, there's a few things that happen but I understand they happen for a reason. But if I didn't have to live them, I wouldn't have put myself through it. Yeah. Most of us would, because nobody volunteers for hardship or raises their hand for struggle. Yet there is something about adversity that teaches lessons comfort never could. Comfort doesn't teach resilience or perseverance or gratitude. It doesn't teach perspective. Those lessons usually arrive strictly through experience. Some of the strongest people I have ever met are strong because they faced challenges, endured setbacks, and survived difficult seasons where they discovered strength they didn't know they had. Yeah. What's up, nephew? Yeah, I know how your life has been, bro, but you're still standing. Miss Coley, you're fine. Thank you for being here. I think that's why I smile when listening to those young students. When I listen to those young people speak, I smile. I smile because I know that they are going to discover things about themselves that they cannot possibly see right now. They will discover courage they haven't yet needed and wisdom they can only earn through experience. Life is a remarkable teacher. Yes, it is. Sometimes painful and unexpected, but a master teaches nonetheless. Mm. Life is a remarkable teacher, sometimes painful and unexpected, but a master teaches nonetheless. I hope you got that. Looking back now, I realize that every major chapter of my life arrived before I felt fully prepared for it. Becoming a soldier, a husband, a father, a grandfather, building a career, and facing health challenges never arrived with a letter saying, "Congratulations, Vernon. Congratulations, Longhorn. You're ready." No, that didn't happen. Life simply knocked on the door and said, "Hey, got something for you. Here you go. It's time." And step by step, I grew into each one of those. I had to grow into being a soldier, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a career. I never imagined me having a career in the automobile industry. I told you what I thought I was going to be. I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist and a colonel in the army. That's what I believed. But life simply knocked on the door and said, "Hey, guess what? No, you're not." Maybe that's how life works. All right, Buzz, good to see you, my friend. Maybe we're not supposed to be fully prepared. Maybe we're supposed to become prepared through the experience itself. Think about how many parents felt fully prepared before bringing home their first child, or how many business owners felt fully ready before opening their doors. Most of us weren't. We learned as we went. We adapted, we adjusted, and the experience itself became the teacher. That is the exact moment I wish every graduate could understand there tonight, or that was there last night, or every graduate across the country. I wish they could understand that. I wish they could understand you don't have to know everything or see the entire road ahead of you. You simply need enough courage to take the next step. I see you, August. As I sat there last night, I wonder how many times life would force those graduates to adjust their plans. And then I realized that the exact same thing is true for us. Just because we're older doesn't mean we're finished growing or that life is finished surprising us. There are still chapters we haven't read, opportunities we haven't discovered, and lessons we haven't learned. The story isn't over. And that is good news because no matter where you are right now, there is still more life ahead of you. Life was never obligated to follow our plans. Our responsibility is simply to learn from every chapter, to grow from them, to appreciate them, and then to keep moving. So I'm getting ready to get out of here, y'all. So I told you the show's going to run a little long tonight because there is no show next Sunday. So we're going to close this up. Here we go. The graduates I watched last night don't know where life will take them. And the truth is, neither do we. But if life has taught me anything, and if it's taught you anything, it's that the changed plan often becomes the better plan. Sometimes the road we never intended to travel leads us exactly where we needed to go. The setbacks become the setup, and the detour becomes destination. Sometimes life has other plans because life can see possibilities that we simply couldn't, cannot, will not see until we're there. So if you're in a season where the plan has changed or a door has closed, don't automatically assume something has gone wrong or that your story is over. Keep moving, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing. Keep believing. Some of the most important lessons in life are not the ones we're taught, they're the ones we live. And that message I found in all of this madness. That is the message for tonight. I need you guys to Charlie Mike. I need you to continue your mission. That's what Charlie Mike stands for. So, again, no show next Sunday. I thank y'all for joining me tonight. Make sure you hit like, love, and share the message. And as we always say, or as I always say, I love you, God loves you. Take care of yourself, love yourself, respect yourself, take care of yourself. Love them kids, respect our vets. This has been another episode of Messages in the Madness with yours truly, Vernon Longhorn Davis. And until our next message, God bless y'all. $2.